All right. Are we live? All right. Am I live? Am I alive? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and assume everything is good and well to go. With that said, let's go ahead and begin. So this is going to be, I guess, not do that. All right, so this is going to go ahead and be the first episode of this channel. Curious to see how it goes, but ultimately, the only way to find out how a way ends is to fare down it in the first place. So through the fare we go. All right, let's go ahead and get the keynote up. So the first thing we're going to be working on, well, I think even before that, the purpose of this channel is ultimately to go ahead and see how AI can be used to develop software. The gist of it is, having worked in software for 6 years, well, 7 if you count all the months together. The gist of it is to see how AI can be used to help develop software. And the way it'll be working is I shall be overseeing it, interrogating it, and steering its direction whilst letting it do all the work, which is kind of the norm nowadays, but I would like to approach it from a more systemic view rather than just letting it build an app and then call it good. So what is the first thing we're going to be building? The first thing is WaveFold, which is an offline first emergency preparedness iPhone app built live with AI as known. The intent is to make it an AGPL license to begin. So what is this app about? It's basically a calm offline emergency binder for your iPhone. It allows you to get information that's typically scattered around, information that could be stored online, and making it available locally, essentially acting as a way to obtain critical information regardless of where you're at. No accounts needed, no cloud, and it's designed to work without the internet. So it's meant to be, again, offline first, user owned. This information is not even going to be stored within iCloud, although that could be a capability down the line, but user owned data, so only on your device, and just a calm utility. So what's inside? It's going to have an emergency profile, such as like medical information, blood type, allergies, medications, and conditions for you or anyone you deem worth adding. Contact information for your emergencies, any critical documents. Me being overseas, I know this would help, especially if I don't trust the internet when I'm at the airport. Phrase packs, so it's going to be where you have, well, there's going to be a preset, there's going to be a certain amount of prompts that are made ahead of time. And the purpose of this is to use Apple's native translation framework to translate it within all the supported languages, but you're able to add your own, and then just plain text notes. So just a summary, no accounts or sign-in, no cloud syncs, no notifications, no maps or locations, no social features, no subscriptions, no analytics or telemetry, and no external AI systems except for what's built into the Apple framework. And with that, let's go ahead and get building. Again, AI writes the code, I choose what stays. So that said, let's go ahead and begin our way here. Let's go ahead and grab this prompt. I already went ahead and made a prompt ahead of time, so that way I can hand it off to Claude. If you're wondering, the tool I'm going to be using is Claude. I do have Codex, but I don't prefer to use Codex for more deep thinking applications, just more of like one-off tasks, which in itself is not bad. But the thing is, I'd like to be a little bit more prodding when it comes to this. So I'm going to go ahead and use Claude. All right, so WaveFold, and this is going to be using Xcode. Again, it's an iPhone native application, so we'll go ahead and be using Xcode. I'm on 26.5. SwiftUI, which is the norm nowadays, Swift. And we'll have tests using Swift testing, but to be honest, we'll see if we write any tests, just because tests are valuable, but at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of testing. I know people have different opinions on that, but unless it's critical, such as to the point where, especially if it's like a live service, that's where I prefer to do it. Or maybe if it's interacting with something, yeah, generally if it's interacting with an external live service, I just want to ensure that it's correct. But generally with internal logic, I try very hard not to write it, just because it's ultimately code you have to maintain. And even if AI is going to be utilizing itself to write these tests, even though AI is going to be writing these tests, it's still resource and time that's going to be used. So with that said, we'll go ahead and just begin with all this stuff. Okay, so while this is going ahead and it's configuring itself, I'm going to go ahead and begin setting this up. Let's see, yeah, all these apps, some of them are real, some of them have been published, a lot of them are just, hey, how do I do this? Okay, so do I have the prompt? All right. So let's go ahead and adjust this prompt. All right. Do I trust my own workspace? Maybe. So when it comes to the theme, I'm thinking of setting it around this style right here. So it's not necessarily charcoal. I'm bad at colors, but basically this style of colors. The screen's not bad, but the generally this type of theme. So the thing that's interesting with these tools is they're very powerful. I am using Opus 4.7 with a million token context. So thinking about it, I shouldn't do that because I don't want it to dilute the usage of my own main project. So let me go ahead and see what we got here. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I might use Sonnet is a little lighter, but honestly, I think for our purposes, we're not building systems. In general, this channel is not going to focus on building systems, but rather using systems. So what does that mean? It means seldom shall I create in-depth software. We are going to create software, don't get me wrong, but what I'm looking to do is utilize existing systems rather than building it from the ground up, because that's kind of more for my own personal business, and I don't feel like thinking beyond how I've already thought earlier in the day. So let's go ahead and switch this to Sonnet 4.6. Let me just go ahead and, okay, so off the bat, something that I don't like doing is these previews. They look good in context, and you know, you can say, can't I see what my app would look like before I run it. It's like, yeah, that's true, but then you have to realize that every time something updates, you then have to update every preview. It's kind of like documentation that you have to keep updating. It's not necessarily required. It shows you what it looks like, but then every time you have to make this compile because this is actual code. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of the previews. And if you're wondering how are we going to know what it looks like, we're just going to have to run the app. So content view is probably going to stay, but it shall be repurposed. The WaveFold app is going to be reconfigured soon. This guy, unless Claude chooses to, how would you say? Unless Claude chooses to repurpose this guy, it's like, I envision this guy going away. Pairing the iPhone simulator. Okay, well, it's running, I guess. So this is something to remember. It's like the iPhone simulator is good. I do have my own phone, but to be honest, it's like I just rather go on the simulator because I don't feel like sharing my screen externally. In another app, or maybe when I do a second live stream on here, because I'm not going to sit around here. For those of you who can't tell, it's 1:46 in the morning. So guess where I'm at in the world. But yeah, so this is actually taking quite a bit of time. It's kind of fascinating. Wow, the infinite loop of doom. Okay. It's interesting. It typically does not take this long. Okay, I don't even know what that was. All right. So yeah, I guess when it comes, while this is firing up, it's like, what do I think about iPhone? Funny enough, it's like I used to hate doing iPhone development. I used to be an Android user. It's like when I graduated back in 2017, that was the last time I ever touched Xcode. Swift was still around. I don't think SwiftUI was there. It truly was storyboards still at that time. And I remember looking at books about Objective-C, and no, it was kind of interesting. Objective-C. I did not like storyboards. Like, it's interesting how storyboards are a legacy from Next Step, from when Steve Jobs made it. But it definitely shows its age. Now, is it outdated? No. Definitely is better than Android Studio when it was XML, but no, Swift is really such a fascinating language. It's like when I used to program in this by hand much more heavily, no, it's just a really powerful language. You know, I could go ahead and do stuff like, oh, it's modern, it's contemporary, but no, like it's just quite simple. You know, it's like it has everything you need. Now, the Apple system itself, the Apple ecosystem is a little bit hit and miss. For example, when you have Swift Data is actually really good, especially if you're just looking at local development, really good. I think core data is what drove me away when I was first getting involved, because you had Objective-C, which is very powerful, but at the same time extremely verbose and quite nuanced. And then you had the storyboards, and that definitely was tough to wrangle with. And then after storyboard, it's like, you know, you had core data. Forgot about core data. That was horrible. You know, it's like, it definitely was a GUI age, even in the early 2000s. But you know, I guess it's so odd, isn't it? It's like that was 2 decades ago. I was 12 years old. But you know. All right, WaveFold. It's like whenever you're ready to launch. But no. Swift is a really good language. I honestly like it. And the thing that draws me back is SwiftUI. Having done web development in React, I've done it in Angular. I got introduced to web development through AngularJS. For those who know, that's the very first Angular. That was horrible. It's like, that was just horrible. But no, getting introduced through front-end web development through React, that I really liked it. So having your code and user interface be in Swift, having it translate over into UIKit components, you know, that's really good. And you know, the ability, the interoperability between Objective-C and Swift is also really powerful. Like I didn't know that SwiftUI is built right on top of UIKit. So it's nice to be able to see them bridge together, but at the same time, Swift is itself its own language that can run on its own. So like I have forayed a little into using Swift as a backend language using Vapor. So that was quite fun. But no, nowadays it's like, especially on my own software that I do for myself for my own business, I prefer to do it in Golang because Golang is very simple. It is a little verbose, but not so verbose in the level of Java. It's a little more forthright, but I really like it. For instance, like I love how inheritance only happens through interfaces and you only have structs, and composition is how you have different types interoperate and also contain behavior and properties from other types. So I really love that. I really love that about Golang. And you know, you're able to operate in different ways, such as, do you want a method to be a receiver, or do you want it to interact with functions either by passing in the type or making it a receiver? So no, that's really interesting. And while that's going on, I'm just trying to figure out why this is taking forever. I'm just going to blame it on it being at 1:52 in the morning. You know, it's like sometimes I joke that where I live, it's like this is actually the worst time to be working. It's almost like, you know, driving in the States, like at a certain time in the morning, and you're just like in the rush hour traffic. Thinking about it, well, I guess it depends. Because on the West Coast, it should be about 12 o'clock. Almost 1,300 hours, 1 p.m. I forget. It's like, yeah, I forget. I'm from around that region of the world, so I just know, I think it's either about to be 1 or it's 2. One of those. We'll line it up. All right, WaveFold. It's like whenever you're ready to go. You know, it's interesting. I didn't even bother like launching this ahead of time because the simulators have always been fast, and now this is the first time I'm seeing them misbehave. As they say, it's like everything goes fine until it's time to go live. So it's interesting the way this simulator is like, looks wonky. It in itself has not even fully started. You know, maybe that's why you never update to the latest iPhone, not even latest iPhone versions, but it's like you never even update to the latest Xcode versions. Because it feels like every time there's an update, Xcode in itself is wonky, but that's a video for another time. All right, maybe WaveFold is going to come alive. I guess while that's happening, we can go ahead and just be doing some simple stuff. such as making maybe WaveFold have a space between it, but we'll see what it looks like. WaveFold as one word isn't so bad. This is definitely going to only be on the iPhone. Apple Vision. I don't know if anyone has ever made an Apple Vision app. Long ago, I used to be a huge believer in like the augmented reality, but not really. Even when it comes to, let me go ahead and disable these landscapes. I don't know why anyone would need to do that, but we'll figure it out. But no, I used to be a big believer once upon a time in like blockchain. Contracted with the blockchain company once, creating chain link oracles. That was actually really fascinating. But then I realized that, blockchain is kind of really like a gambling world. So, it's like, it is what it is. All right, are we alive? Finally? Imagine this being your brand new iPhone. My gosh. Okay, so WaveFold. UI tests. I'm not a huge fan. They are so slow. I will say that about browsers. Like browsers, web apps are a pain to work with, especially when you're using JavaScript libraries and frameworks. Like, I know I talked about using React, but I've used React, Angular, AngularJS, and Vue.js. Vue.js is not bad, actually. I actually like Vue.js because the problem with React is it's the most popular. It's a library, but it's a library. It means you got to make so many different things work together. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, now maybe we can begin. All right. So let's get started here. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and see what Claude comes up with here. So the thing with AI is it's really good, but I will say that a lot of the time it's like when it thinks emergency profile, colors are then based on the scope of the natural build orders, emergency profiles, documents, raise packs. Yeah, I think that's good. So let's see what we got here. So let's go ahead and see what the output is going to be. So went ahead and did the wave accent. All right, so okay. Yeah, and so like it's interesting because I have used Codex, and I will say that one thing about Codex is it seems a little bit more speedy when it comes to here. Claude, however, I like because, especially when I'm doing my own deeper system applications, it is a lot more thoughtful, which is good, but at the same time, I'm actually very curious to see how things happen here because I've never used it on a simpler app. So when I'm working on my application, it's very easy to say, hey, it's like, let's do extremely deep analysis on this and spend 3 hours like knocking things out. Okay. All right, so see, here we are going ahead and making modifications. But they come like, it's like obviously Codex is the same thing, but I feel like for Claude, it's a little bit more bit at a time, Xcode build. Okay, go ahead. Look at all these blood types. I don't even know what my blood type is. I didn't even know there was an unknown blood type. I'm really hoping that's a placeholder. But we'll go ahead and let that go. Okay, emergency profile name, blood type. Okay, the raw value. All right, that makes sense. So we're going to store the raw type here. Allergies. Can I see? Yeah, I think that's fine. Ooh, medications is definitely. Okay, let's see. These I know for sure are these slated to be their own types in the future. Yeah, so for here, it's like I can see, I mean, they don't necessarily need to be, but I can already tell that these are abstractions waiting to happen. Their fields are in a single emergency, same as allergies. All three plain text strings meant to be typed freely. Okay, so the reason I would want these to be, because I agree, but I would actually say that these entities can be isolated in themselves, even though we're not going to be having a backend server. Let's see. You can see these things being stored in the database, Swift data, as their own queryable entities. So while that's good, all the same pattern or stay as free text. Ooh, allergies. I say we make it its own type. Medication. Let's see. Medication can get the other information, but only name is required. Let's see how this looks. $1,000 tokens. High effort. Debating. Well, it's okay. Okay, let's see. Is there any other change that I can see here? Yeah, I think that might be it. I can see these being, I'm curious to see. I bet it's going to convert allergies, medications, and yeah, I bet it's going to convert allergies, medications, and conditions to a list of their own respective types. But let's see what this looks like. All right, there's that. Emergency profile. Yep, see, it did purge item. I thought it was going to do that. Allergy, default empty string, that's fine because when they're creating a new allergy, it's going to, yeah, that's fine. Especially when they're entering into the form fields. Emergency profile, okay. Let's see here. Auto context, emergency profiles, okay. Navigation stack, I can see, I'm actually very curious to see though. All right. Oh, okay. So it puts everything in Claire. Okay, whatever. I was gonna say Claire. Like, what is that? I wonder if that's just like an effect of the model, mainly just because we're using Sonnet. But I mean, you know, kind of the nice thing is it does self-correct. But what I do want to do here is see this navigation stack. I can envision this all being in a tab. And what I'm thinking should happen is the navigation stack is not going to be at this view level, but rather it's going to be at the top level, but we'll see what it looks like. Okay, let's see. So group of left profiles first, profile form, profile navigation, profile large color, navigation bar up here, model context insert. Okay, so create the first initial emergency profile. We'll see what that looks like. That does kind of bother me. That's okay. This, I probably would want this to be, let's see, can we move this to its own file whilst creating an appropriate directory structure for the views. Everything here looks all right. Okay, so created, let's see, private struct add name sheets. Same for the sheet. Same for the sheet. Please. I just want to move all of these out because, you know, like, it just makes it easier to find. Did I enter? Yeah, okay. Navigation stack. These navigation stacks can stay in here. I think, yeah, these can stay in here because they're going to be opening up in their own context. No, I think this should be fine. I think a navigation stack within a sheet is like its own isolated context, but we'll see what that looks like. The reason why is because a nav stack, well, yeah, nav stacks can get very odd, navigation stacks. So it's like, I just want to make sure that when the sheet comes up, it doesn't shut itself, because that ends up happening. You know, it's just, I know when you have a sheet open up within the sheet, they also shut themselves automatically. So this looks good on add. Three things I'm debating. Debating if I want that to be its own type, because 1 and 2 parameters is okay, but 3 is bugging me a little. But it's okay. That's fine for now. It's like, this is going to be open source. We can all go ahead and handle this. Okay, this looks good. Let's go ahead and get that to be its own thing. And then if all is well, we'll go ahead and run the app to see what it looks like. Yeah, it's not so bad though. It's my usage. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Create these profiles, split them out. Awesome. And in case you're not used to seeing this, these changes do translate over to here. So, well, they should be translated over to here. Actually, no, the reason why you don't see them translated here is because this is where Claude gets quite interesting, in that what it does is it does not operate off of the root folder, but it operates off of its own .claude directory. So nothing looks like it's changing here because we have to enter one further file, well, one further directory. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and stop. Then what we're going to do is go ahead and open WaveFold. Ah, it's a hidden directory. Clever. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and run this app. It's kind of a nice thing, eager novel. Okay, so let's go ahead and have it run. Run simulator. Okay, that's fine. So I think what we'll do is, because it's going to be writing the code anyway. Oh, wow, an iPhone 16. Okay. Well, I got an iPhone 16. Section headers. Okay. Go ahead and do that. I know there's the option to like always run. I typically do, but a lot of the time, I feel like some of these commands can go ahead and be set to always run. But the thing is, sometimes if it modifies like a single variable, especially like the simulator ID, if that ever changes, then it's going to always ask, because yeah, it's just going to always ask. So a lot of the time I just default to just run. Okay, so let's set them up as private. They didn't use the view builders, but that's honestly okay. I bet there might be a performance impact. So like having like an @ so like right here, like put in like an @ view builder. But I typically set that as a function. But that's okay. At the end of the day, the result is the same. I would have done like @ view builder, private func, identity section, and then you just return some view xcode build. Private harm medication section. Okay. Wow. Is it simulator alive? Okay, let's go ahead and shut this. Well, let me see here. It's like I just want to make sure it's targeting the iPhone 16. Okay, I thought it was targeting my actual iPhone 16. Actually, wait, it better not be hitting my real phone. Okay. Yeah, the simulators aren't bad. It's like, these simulators aren't bad. I think the only thing that gets me is when you're releasing an app, it wants a certain image size, and you always want to make sure you get like, I know for me, I just get the largest iPhone. I think I get the iPhone 17 Pro, and I use that simulator because if your pictures are too small for the App Store, it rejects it, even though it gives you like all these different sizes. There's only one size. It has to be equal or higher. And the only simulator that is able to fulfill Apple's requirement is an iPhone 17 Pro simulator's images. But it's a lot better than working on Android because at least the simulators integrate very well here. I remember back then when I used to do Android development, it was always annoying having to do that. So it's nice to just be able to say Command S, and it just gives you, so like right here, like Command S. So you just like this nice little thing that just gets dragged around. You know, makes it good when you're just like showing off your work, or when you're, yeah, you know, just like when you're showing off your work to other people. Is this app running? Okay, there we go. Oh. Yes, okay. Go ahead, watch it, ask for the same exact command. Oh my gosh. The baby, the clicking babysitting. Again, I know you can make this a lot faster, but the thing is, if the values ever shift by anywhere, one character, it's going to go ahead and keep reprompting you. Oh, okay, well. Okay, so this is the emergency profile. Allow Claude to read. Okay, go ahead. It's kind of interesting. That'd be funny if it can get our background. Okay. Focus. Okay, feedback. Okay, that's kind of nice. Okay. Maybe we can go ahead and close this guy. Behold, it's me. Okay. I really don't even know my blood type. I'm just going to say B positive. Let's see. Let's see. Allergies. Okay, oh, well, I locked myself out of the simulator. Okay, so. Well, the simulator is not loving me today. Yeah, it's so odd. Literally, in all other instances, if I was to run the simulator, it performs flawlessly. And then all of a sudden, when I do a live demo, it's like, let's go ahead and end the world. Well, I think we can go ahead and stop it here. The app is already well underway. And yeah, you know, this is just the first video setting it all up. I'll get things much more prepared. At least the ball is rolling and I already know what I'm going to do. So for instance, I want to create a tab view. Just imagine there's going to be a tab view down here and like a settings view. Probably, I'll see what that is. I know for the language settings, that's going to be important. But yeah, that's basically it for the first video. With that, I shall catch you and ye on the next one. Fare thee well.